I would like to call the Board of Zoning Appeals meeting for January 9th to order. First item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance and roll call. Okay. Please rise. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Before we do the roll call, anybody that has a cell phone, please put it on airplane mode or off. Next item is the roll call.
Ms. Harlow? Here. Mr. Horvath?
Here.
Mr. Trick?
Here.
Mr. Wolf?
Here.
Mr. Deutsch?
Here.
Okay, next item on the agenda is the election of officers. Who's supposed to be in line for the next chair?
Well, Jack's term expires next, but he didn't want it last year because he...
No, I can't do that with my time out of state.
So then the next one is Ralph and then Jennifer.
Oh, me? Oh, okay. So anybody want to make a nomination?
Yeah, I'll nominate you.
And who's that?
You're off.
Okay, I just,
Right.
you know.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Nobody knows.
Nobody knows you. Okay.
All in favor?
Well, is there a second?
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay.
Okay, Ms. Harlow?
Oh, I'm fine.
Yes. Mr. Horvath?
Yes.
Mr. Trick?
Yes.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Mr. Deutsch?
Yes.
Great.
Okay.
Done.
That's for the chair, and the next one is I nominate Ms. Harlow for the assistant chair.
Vice Chair.
Second.
Oh, Ralph. Okay. Ms. Harlow?
Yes.
Mr. Horvath?
Yes.
Mr. Trick?
Yes.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Mr. Deutsch?
Yes.
Okay, we now have our officers.
Great.
Next item is the approval of the agenda. I move we approve the agenda as written.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the agenda is approved. Okay, swearing in. Those going to be talking for or against anybody in this meeting, please stand and raise your right hand. The testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay, please be seated. Hearing of appeal BZA 2022-09, one-stop sign, 9001 Fields Erdel Road, the installation of a wall sign on the north and west face of the new building that exceeds square footage permitted.
Good evening, Brian Snyder, zoning administrator in Hamilton County. I prepared a staff report you should have in front of you for this case. As you stated, this is a variance for wall signage at the proposed tire discounter store. The site is the location of a former White Castle. It should be torn down and replaced with a new tire discounter store. The permits for the construction, demolition, all that have been secured. The wall signage and the overall signage package was to be handled later by somebody else. And that permit came in with signage that didn't meet the requirements of the zoning resolution. The denial of that request was appealed to this board, and that is why we're here tonight. There are two signs that are the subject of the request. There's more signage on the overall site, but this site has frontage on Fields Erdel Road. It also has access off of a side private street that is also considered frontage. On the opposite side, on the west side, there's no access to the site from that side. In fact, next door to that is I believe, a McDonald's drive-through lane before you get to the next side street. So that side of the property does not face or front on a public street. and therefore is not permitted signage. Also, the Tire Discounter store is fairly narrow, so a limited amount of signage is permitted on the main facade facing Field Turtle Road. The site is permitted to have a 60 square foot sign facing Field Turtle Road, a 151.5 square foot sign facing towards the side street. The side of the building is 202 feet long, it's much longer. Even though there's a reduced amount of signage permitted on a secondary facade, obviously the longer facade length allows for a bigger sign. So the site's allowed to have 211 square feet of 211 and a half square feet of building signage. What's being requested is or three identical 125.66 square foot signs, one on the east, the west, and the north facades.
Brian, how big?
125.66.
125.66, okay.
Correct. So on the side where 151 is allowed, obviously that is below the 151 permitted on the east facade, facing towards the side street. The side facing towards Field Turtle is obviously much larger than 60 square feet. So there's a variance request for additional square foot area on the north facade. And then the west facade does not front on a public street and therefore is not permitted any signage at all. And so the 125.66 on the west facade would be a total 125.66 square foot variance, or actually the variance is for a sign on a facade where no signage is allowed at that size. There are two other signs on the site. There's a freestanding sign that was installed as part of the White Castle prior to 1996 adoption of zoning by the township. That sign is 90.32 square feet altogether and 23 feet tall. There is also a highway pylon sign on the site that was approved in 1992 by the Board of Zoning Appeals. For a pole that would have exceeded 35 feet in height. Prior to 1996, maximum sign height was 35 feet and there was no maximum square foot area. So the sign what was granted by the Board of Zoning Appeals was 100 feet in height, which allowed for the construction of the current 97 foot tall, 221.7 square foot high-rise pylon sign. The Symmes Township zoning resolution was adopted in 1996, does allow for highway pylon signs when you're within a certain distance of the interstate right-of-way, which they are. And so the site is actually allowed to have a pylon sign, but the maximum size of that is 50 feet, 120 square feet. So the sign that is there is non-conforming. It's grandfathered as a non-conforming sign. Along with the existing pylon sign, they're not proposing to change anything with those. They're proposing to change the faces of those two signs. I did want to point out that the BZA approval of the high-rise pylon sign restricted the sign face area to face towards 71 only and required the south facade facing towards the south to be opaque, not have any signage on it and be opaque so that no light could shine through.
Is that an issue, or is that agreed to?
It can be discussed by the board because the board that approved that condition, you can change it or you can leave it with the board that approved it. As it stands currently, they're not allowed to have a face change on that southern facade, and they have to keep it solid so that light doesn't shine through towards the residences to the south. So that's what was approved for that pylon. I only bring that up because there's a significant amount of signage altogether on the site, both what is permitted and then what is being requested is even more significantly above the amount of permitted signage, both of which are much higher than what the Symmes Township zoning resolution allows currently. So all of those numbers are in there. I'd be happy to go into the specifics if you'd like, but essentially they've got more freestanding signage than would be permitted, a bigger pylon, high-rise pylon sign than would be permitted, and they're requesting more signage on the north facade than would be permitted and a sign on the west facade where no signage is permitted, all of which is above what the White Castle has currently. The staff report does also discuss the fact that most of the developments going down Field Turtle Road away from this were also approved prior to 1996. There are tire stores down the street and restaurants down the street that have facades on signs on three facades. What the staff report also points out is both the zoning commission who handles the planned unit developments, the planned districts down the street. Most of the double E's are planned districts. They all go through the zoning commission for approval of modifications. So a lot of that signage hasn't come to this board. But this board as well, both the zoning commission and the Board of Zoning Appeals have considered variances to signage generally only when there's either an equal or a lesser amount of signage being requested, so that a lot of the findings of the board and the commission when it's come to these type of requests is it making it better or worse? Are we getting closer to what the zoning resolution allows, or is it making it more non-conformant with the current zoning resolution? So that is something that the board can consider and weigh with your decision tonight. This is a practical difficulties variance and not a use variance. The standards for practical difficulties variances are on the bottom of page 3 and the top of page 4, and I'd be happy to answer any questions at this time.
So when you talk about equal or less, I understand that because we've had another number of signage issues come before us. And our desire is to move closer and closer to what the current standards are as provided by the Zoning Commission. So when I look at it, and I just want to check my numbers here, the freestanding and the pole sign, they're in excess of what's approved or what's in the ordinance by almost 142 square feet.
Yeah, the pole sign's allowed to be 50 square feet, and the freestanding sign's allowed to be 50 square feet. The pole sign's allowed to be 120, so that's, they're allowed to have 170 square feet of
and they have 312. So that's
sounds right.
So they're already 140 square feet over what we would hope for if this was a brand new installation.
Yes, then
Yes.
what the code allows, yes.
Okay. And then on the wall sign, based on what you've said are the requirements, the requirements are what's permitted is 211 square feet, and they're at 386, which is like 175 square feet.
I had 377, almost 377 square feet is what the staff report said, but I'm not going to
Now, there were different
certify that
numbers.
my math is
That's why I'm
correct.
asking. So it was about 175 square feet over, roughly. 170,
160
175
something, right?
roughly. So I mean, we're talking like almost 300 square feet of signage that they're requesting that's over and above what we would give if this was a new facility.
Correct.
Okay. All right.
When you have said that there were other businesses in the area that have signs on all three sides, you have the frontage on Fields, or are those sides facing an access road?
No, not in all cases. Prior to 1996, there was no restriction on which side could have signage. So I know of 2 cases down the street, I believe with Taco Bell and possibly with the other tire discounters, where there were signs on 4 sides of the building, and when they were most recently redone, signage was reduced to 2 or 3 sides instead of all 4.
Okay.
I know all 4 wasn't approved. And the actual sizes of the sign, I don't believe all 4 was approved. I'm not positive about the Taco Bell, but the actual sizes of the freestand or the building mounted signage was far less when it was installed than it was before it was requested. None of those cases down the street did anybody come in and ask for additional signage above and beyond the non-conforming signage that was approved previously. I don't recall of a single case where that's happened.
And that's consistent with the principle that you said, equal or less, moving us closer to the standard for the township.
That finding has been made by this board and the zoning commission on numerous cases, yes.
Okay.
That pole sign that is facing I-71, there's no other sign in that area that matches that, right? I mean, this is going to stand out as the tallest pole sign?
I am not positive. We haven't had a lot of cases with the signage of those sites right around that, and when you go across the other side of the interstate, that's Deerfield Township, so I'm not sure what the sizes any of those signs are over there. I mean, since 1996, you haven't been allowed to build a sign that tall for that large because of the location of the interstate. You're allowed to have a pole sign, but it's much smaller and much shorter than what was typically installed along the interstates prior.
Well, we just had that case last year with the gas station that went in. They wanted everything, and we told them they got to come in, and that was because it was a new facility. There was no real option for us to approve a variance. Okay.
Are there any other questions for Brian at this time?
Thank you.
I don't know if it was brought up, Brian. I got one question, real quick.
Okay.
They have the channel lettered signs as 128.66. You said it was 125.66.
That's where the numbers came in a little bit.
Oh, I apologize. Yeah, 128.66. Yeah.
Okay, so it is
Sorry, there is a
128.
typo in the staff report on page 2. The signage size on the front is right.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure we're
Thank you.
talking apples to apples.
Very good.
Thank you. Anybody going to be talking for? Please,
yeah, so my name is,
please state your name and address.
Okay. My name is Justin Scalf. I'm with One Stop Signs. I'm both agent, representative, and contractor for the project. I just want to give a few details about the building standard. The brand typically does wrap the front part of the building with signage. And by the front part, I mean the deck, the part of the structure that has a roof line. Usually the atrium includes 3 sides of glass. In this case, it has 2 panes of windows on the west elevation. Architecturally, the brand likes to be uniform for its clients. More visible from the roadway, we like to provide an architecture that's consistent with the brand no matter where they go. When we talk about the nature of the structure that we're currently leaving behind, the Tire Discounters is replacing with this new building, they're currently allotted 3 wall signs. So the brand sought out 3 wall signs on this new location, because that's what they were accustomed to within the region. Okay? Let's talk about visibility on the structure. When we look at the north elevation, I've been calling this elevation A because it's our priority in terms of wall signage. This elevation comes in at 128. The nature of the structure is very narrow. It's a weird building. Okay, it's weird that commercially you're only 40 feet wide, but yet you're 202 feet long. So the nature of what the building does makes it kind of obscure to post wall signage. So whereas I realize 128 is a lot, the nature of the structure makes that calculation bizarre. It makes that front wall sign seem much larger than I would say, in fact, commercially you're accustomed to seeing on that roadway. And then I want you to also notice how close that north wall is to the road itself. I know we have a giant pylon sign. I want to highlight the fact that we're able to do that because it's non-conforming. Even outside of any consideration of wall signs, these big giant pole structures are there. And any brand is going to try to infill as much as they can and take advantage of that non-conforming status. Okay? But even with these tall pole structures, it's ironic that when you're about 40 yards away from the property, you're not really seeing the tall pole. Let's hope that you either saw the pole structure that's again adjacent to the roadway, or you're going to miss this turn. I think just recently it's been decided by the township that this first turn on Fields Erdel will be a right turn only. Traffic in, traffic out only to the right. So this first turn in, the first opportunity that the customer gets to come into the property is basically last minute when it comes to visibility of the north wall signage. That property and that entry will be right on you before you notice where that wall sign is. So a solution to that would be placing wall signage on the west elevation. Because Tire Discounters comes out further than McDonald's, it's visible from both that private lane, which is owned by McDonald's, and the lane, Gregory Lane, south to it. Because McDonald's tucks in further, our building is visible to that west elevation. Okay? As of today, I'm not crying foul, I'm not seeing what our neighbor has and saying we deserve it as well, but as of right now, both Olive Garden and McDonald's have wall signage that posts to the north and to the south. In the case of Olive Garden, it's pointing out towards the entrance to the interstate, that round turn there. And in the case of McDonald's, it's visible to both the street frontage and its private lane. In terms of pole structures in the region, we're looking at 4 other major pole structures. I don't know if we're the tallest. We may in fact be the tallest. I don't want to speak for that. But I can tell you that there are 4 to 5 other pole structures that exist there today. And then in terms of their shelf life, I mean, those things could be up there for 30 to 40 years, structurally sound. So I don't know the turnover in terms of other properties. I don't know the reality is that if I forfeit my pole today, will the other brands still be posting for the next 20 years? I don't know. I can't speak for that. It seems that the sign on the east elevation is permissible. We've got a frontage, plus we have a long extended building, so I don't see any contention there. I do realize that the aggregate total of wall signage is huge in comparison to what we're allotted, okay? And whereas I've come asking for, right, and varying anywhere between my allotted square feet that's there currently versus, you know, maybe down to an 8 by 10 unit. If they're advertising, we want to be advertising, right? We want the same kind of conditions and privileges that are nearby properties.
With the punctuation marks? I mean, isn't the words enough?
I understand the marketing can be seen as not relevant. I would say that's just current trend marketing, and if anything, it'll repost one day traditionally back to just TD or tire discounters. You know, if that marketing was a trend out. But yeah, arrow exclamation point. I think it might be kind of lame at best, but you know what? It's the brand's look right now. And again, because we have that non-conforming status, they're going to do everything they can to maintain that pole structure and keep that graphic at that height.
You have a lot of stores, and I've been a client of yours for many, many years, and I know what these signs look like. Are all these signs conformed in all your tire discounters on the walls? I mean, every store you'll see.
We love building them standard. Yeah.
Senator, is there any consideration of reducing the signage?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I can name you 6 different regions in the area alone, just in Cincinnati Metroplex, that reduce us down. And we start off big, you know.
Sure.
But it is commonplace to work with the district and come down to a realistic proposal. And again, I can forfeit signage on the west elevation. We could live with that, but we really want that big guy on that front north to connect with drivers at the at the main entry and that main roadway.
Is this what is the size of that?
It is
Again?
128 square feet.
Okay.
Again, the property itself is only allotted 211 technically based on the size of the structure.
Wow.
So that takes up almost, you know, 3/5 of what we're allotted just on that front wall side alone.
They also bought the property knowing, you know, being a block away, so.
Yeah. I can see the code check to the right of my site map and artwork here, so we're aware of the conditions placed on it.
Okay. Yeah. Can I ask you one more question?
Yeah.
I didn't quite understand. What's happening to the old tire discounter store adjacent to it?
I don't know what they intend to do with the tire discounters.
Is that still going to be owned by tire discounters?
Jeremy, would you like to answer that question?
Yeah.
I'm just curious.
That store's currently leased, so eventually our lease will come to an end and we'll give it back to the landlord. I don't.
Excuse me, can you state your name and address, please?
Jeremy Lifter, it's 3329 South Sterling Way, Cincinnati, Ohio. I'm a staff attorney for tire discounters.
Okay.
Currently it's leased, so we'll be giving it back to the landlord. I don't know the term off the top of my head, but this is designed as a replacement store.
So let me understand, you came here trying to get this whole loaf of bread with all of these signs as big as you can in hopes that we're not going to say much about it or try to negotiate. What happens if we said, I mean you're looking for half the size. So are you willing to take all the signs down to square footage?
Well, again, I mean, sometimes a brand tries to come in with 4 wall signs proposed. Sometimes it doesn't even come with a reader board. It comes in with digital signage on it.
We understand that.
We have taken considerations to bring the proposed elements down. Yes, the entire nature, the entire time was to reduce and then come to a compromise with the district.
Okay. Any other questions?
No, I already have, yeah. No, I'm good.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else going to speak for? And you gonna say anything
I'm happy to
else?
answer questions, but I didn't plan on speaking initially.
No, okay, thank you. Anyone gonna speak against? Since nobody else is here, I close the testimony and go into deliberation. We'll start at the far end, work our way down. I'll start. I've driven by it, and you know, these signs are going to be huge, especially the one on the north side, facing side.
And when you say the north side, you mean Fields Road, right?
Yeah.
That's
Fields are,
Road,
you're right, there's a north arrow on the drawings which points straight up, so it's only that 40-foot wide. To me, that's overpowering from the size. I'm willing to almost cut that down to half, to the 60-foot that's allowed,
Yeah.
because they have that existing pylon sign, and that pylon sign is huge. And driving down Fields Erdel, in reality, from an architectural standpoint, this building, the icon of the shape of the building and what the building looks like, is Tire Discounters. I don't even look for the sign. That's what the new Tire Discounters design actually looks like. So it's becoming, that's their moniker. It's sort of like the golden arches of McDonald's. You don't have to say McDonald's, you just show the golden arches.
They always put it in their advertisement, TV advertisement, you see that?
You're right. And all I'm saying is that you're gonna see signs, that big one, that big pylon sign that says Tire Discounters on one side. Coming from the other side of Fields Road, you'll see that one along the, on the east side of Tire Discounters, which is gonna be big, and you're gonna see that one. Plus, you have the other pylon sign out there, that highway sign, that's gonna point to Tire Discounters as well. So reducing the size of the sign, of even all of them, is a viable solution. They can get their name out there everywhere and not overblow and not destroy our signage requirements. Now, the one on the west side, I'm still concerned about the one on the west side. If we could work something out with them to get that sign smaller, to get closer to what we actually need on the building, I'm possibly willing to accept that one, but I can't accept one that's almost 130 square feet on the west side. So, I mean, that is my look upon this one.
Okay, I hear what you're saying, but I'm not in full agreement, okay? And here's the reason why. I mean, if you look at our requirements, that sign on the west side needs to be on a primary or secondary road. It's on either. So for me, it's a no-go right from the beginning, okay? And the fact that they have that big pylon sign right by Fields Erdel, to me, as I said before, makes it redundant. And so to be consistent with the ordinances that we've approved, the zoning board's approved, no west sign. Okay, you got a pylon sign.
I'm okay with that.
Okay.
Like I say, this is the discussion. This will work.
Yeah. The second thing is the building that faces the north side is only 40 feet wide. Okay, and I think a 60-foot sign is very reasonable, because that's what we're requiring any new business that's coming in after 1996 to abide by, okay? Now, the fact that they have that pylon sign, which is probably, what, 30 to 40 feet away from the corner of the building, okay? And you've got this huge sign up in the sky, okay? And the fact that you're going to be over 300 square feet over and above what the ordinances are.
Is that including the pylon signs?
That includes the pylon sign.
Okay.
So, I mean, when you take a look at their total signage, okay? They're 300 square feet over and above what they would be if we were starting from ground zero. And we're not gonna take that 300 away from them, okay? But I'm just saying, where you are putting new signs, come into compliance. Go with us, okay? Let's make it according to the 60 foot on the 40 foot wall, 60 square feet. You got your pylon, we don't need the west side, and you got your sky sign.
And like I
So you
said,
only
that's
talk-
what discussion is here.
So you're only talking about 2 wall signs?
Yeah,
Two wall
I'm
signs.
talking the front one on the east side.
Fields are, no, north side is field. I go by
Okay.
walls instead of directions.
All right, it's the side that has the side street, which is the long part of the building.
It's facing McDonald's.
Yeah, they could, no, the other side,
Oh,
east.
The one we don't want is the one facing McDonald's.
Yeah, forget about the one on the west side. But the one on the east side, they could go up to 150 square feet. They're choosing to be at 125. That's fine. That's not an issue.
no.
The one on the north side is the one that we're saying, you know, we have an ordinance that was passed in '96. Go with what we're doing here. Be a good citizen and
They're allowed
follow.
60. according
They're
to
allowed
the ordinance,
60, go to 60.
They want 121.
Yeah, and they got 40 feet away to get the
Almost
huge,
twice the size.
they got a 90-foot pylon sign. I think in the fact that they're 300 over any other business that would be starting up, it's like,
That'd be closer to the integrity of what we do.
yes, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to bring the unit or the area into compliance with every opportunity, and this to me seems like a good way to do it.
I have another way, a little bit of a way. They're starting to use TD as their logo now. So if they put TD, they're putting it on the 2 pylon signs.
Yeah, but see, now what we're doing is we're
I
getting
know
into
we're
their
doing the
business.
design.
We're getting into their business. I
Yeah,
don't want to be
right.
in their
I'm just
business.
coming into their,
Yeah,
another way to get to a square footage. But go ahead.
I think that the signage that they're proposing is outrageous. The pylon sign, I mean, I know it's like a non-conforming sign, but if you take that in consideration, the whole overall signage has really got to shrink tremendously. I mean, that pylon sign, I mean, it's crazy in regards to what
I mean, if
they're
Justin,
looking at. I mean,
if Justin was willing to take down the highway sign, I'd give him the 125 feet. I really would. I mean, I'm negotiating, but he wants that sign in the sky. So, I mean,
if that's like a non-negotiable, then you're gonna have to like really reduce the signage like throughout the entire, and I sort of agree that they don't need something on the McDonald's sign. They don't,
Correct.
It's not that visible I mean, Fields Erdo was like the major like player there. That's who you're gonna be driving in to see
Right.
that. You're not
And
gonna
you'll
come
see- and
from
you'll see-
behind that.
If you're driving down Fields Road, what you're gonna see is the 2 pylon signs.
2-line pylon sign and then.
One from the east, one from the west, the big tall one and the smaller one.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to try to reduce the pylons, but I don't.
We can't
do
but
that.
No, I understand that, but that's not something we can do, but I mean, from a standpoint of user-friendly, that's what I would like.
Yeah, down the road, if they ever got rid of it, the only thing that they could go to is, floor mounted signs, basically directional signs to get
Yeah,
it.
I mean, that's how I would take on it.
So,
No.
I was gonna speak up.
I was gonna ask you if you had anything to say.
I have so much to
the
say.
last is the best.
Well, something that we haven't talked about yet is, as a group, is the giant highway sign. The approval that they have is for the back side or south side of it to be black faced.
I asked him, he said that that's correct. They're gonna do.
And that's gonna continue, okay, that's not what was
Yeah.
in the proposal, that's why.
Okay.
I wanted to make sure that was,
Okay.
it was two-sided in the proposal. That's my understanding.
Lighted on one side facing I-71. That's where
Right,
the light
right.
is illuminated.
Because there's apartments and neighborhood.
There's
and-
residents there.
Yeah.
Residents
So we want to
beyond.
make sure that's taken care of. I'm in favor of, the one side on the giant highway pole sign. When we go back to the factors, The big things for me is the variance is a substantial deviation from the zoning code. Yes, over 300 square feet over the limit, and then did they purchase the property with knowledge of the zoning restrictions? Yes, they just purchased it. They were already in the neighborhood for quite a substantial amount of time, many years. I've been a long time customer too, so, but I couldn't tell you how long they've been there. So I am in agreement with the 60 square feet on the front and the 128 or 125, whichever it is they requested on the east side. And I think that is a good middle ground.
And no sign on the west.
No sign on the west.
Can you make a proposal?
I propose that we go ahead.
You did such a
I
great
would
job.
like to make a suggestion that if for some reason in the future that side develops an access road, then you can come back and say, hey, you know, you can put a sign that is 60 feet. You know, if there's a road there, or I can't say it. Access road, right. If one's, could be one built in the future. I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to that, but right now,
Well,
there isn't any.
That one, there isn't any, so we can't really
Right,
vote
but I'm
on
just
that
saying,
one.
in the future.
In the
go
future,
back
they
to
could
them
come
and
back
say,
to
hey,
us.
we're telling you now, in the future, if one would be built, you
Well,
have
they could-
60 feet.
If they put a road there, they could come back to us because it now becomes an access road. So we
Yeah,
don't
they have to come
it
back
won't
when
have
it's
to be
right. They
in-
can't,
Right.
we can't
in the
recreate
proposal. I
that.
mean, they're coming to us with all of these signs. We could address
I
those
just wanted
signs.
to give them that idea that we wouldn't be opposed to that.
It's like me giving them that idea in this conversation.
Right.
What to do.
So let me make a proposal.
Yeah,
What
go
I
ahead.
propose is that we reject, well,
Mr. Chairman, if I can, before we get, I just have a procedural thing, not a public hearing thing.
yep,
What they're permitted by the code is 60 feet on the north, 60 square feet on the north facade and 151 on the east. If that's what you're proposing to do, that would be denying the variance request. Make it a lot easier than, if you're gonna approve a variance and not give them a variance, that's not how that's done. You need to deny the variance that's requested if you want to give them what the code allows.
And then they would have to come back to us with a redesign?
Nope, you would just deny
No.
their request and they would redesign it
Because
to
we're
meet code.
taking it down to what the
yeah,
code says.
that's what I was going to do. I was going to
Correct.
propose that we deny the request
Very good. I just wanted to clarify.
without any further verbiage.
There you go, Jed.
So that would be my proposal. No seconds?
That we deny the variance. I'll
Yes.
second that one.
Yeah.
Denied the variance of the front.
Are we ready?
I want to ask Brian a question real quick. So by denying that, Ross, so upholding the 92 approval of the highway pylon sign, that they can only do the one side?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. I just want to be clear, sorry. Please go ahead, Luann.
Okay. Mr. Dorch?
Yes.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Mr. Trick?
Aye.
Mr. Horvath?
Yes.
Ms. Harlow?
Yes.
What?
There was a second.
Yeah. Ralph. Ralph seconded it.
So that's it?
So the
Okay.
motion,
Carries.
Thank you for being here.
thank you.
Okay, next item
Next
on the agenda. Is there any old business?
I don't have old business. No.
Any new business?
I had a question on signage. I don't know, I mean, it's not really, you'd consider it new business, but I just had a question about it. There's a strip center on the corner of like Endert and Montgomery Road.
Yeah.
I recently noticed like a smoke store went into that plaza. And the sign there is really annoying.
In what way?
Just loud. No, it doesn't make noise, but it
Oh.
just.
It's big. It's big
gaudy.
and very noticeable.
Gaudy. There's like, I don't know what the word you call it, but it's got purple behind the red.
Yeah.
And I just don't know if that's anything within our purview. If that,
I think our purview, Brian, is only size, right?
Right. Size and
That's all we-
location, that's it, that's
That's all
right.
we can do is size and location.
Right. Yeah, we can't address the color.
That's a
or-
design with the company. You can boycott them.
no, I just happened to drive by and it was just, okay, I just asked the question.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, it's a good question. It's,
Absolutely.
doesn't come to our board, so. Are there administrative matters? Approval of the October 3rd
Can I ask one
meeting.
question?
Wait. we
Can
got
I
a
ask one question for Luann? Luann, is there going to be a proposed meeting for February?
Yes.
And do you know what the subject
Yes,
is,
there's
or
already got
what's,
the information, yes.
what's the plaintiff background? or-
Symmes Elementary, isn't it?
Yeah, it's
Oh,
a conditional
Symmes
use
Elementary,
request.
that's right.
Conditional use request for a sign at Symmes Elementary.
That's right. Okay.
Joel's
So far,
our
that's
new
only
member.
one. That's only
Joel's our
one.
new member.
Yay.
Okay, welcome.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, so then we have to approve the minutes of the October
I
3rd
move,
meeting?
we
Yeah,
approve
yes.
them.
Did you read them? Okay, sorry.
Don't ask a lawyer
Well,
that.
you're-
What are you thinking?
That doesn't, hold it.
That's right.
No, I'm not gonna say a word.
All right. I second it.
Okay.
Who made the proposal? Jennifer?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Jennifer did.
Mr. Trick?
In favor of the
Minutes.
minutes? Aye.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Mr. Deutsch, were you here?
I'm not sure if I was. I'll just say present.
Jill, no.
Abstain?
No, you were not.
Mr. Trick?
Abstain.
Yes.
Mr. Horvath?
Yes.
Ms. Harlow?
Yes.
At this point, motion to move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Look at that. This is the first time in ages we've gotten out of here like,
Under an hour.
yes.
I wonder why.
We used to,